Hey guys, welcome to Yesterday's Coffee, the podcast where we chat about fitness, nutrition, and business all over coffee that may or may not have been brewed yesterday. Today we are covering the rate at which you should be losing weight or gaining weight for that matter. This is integral to just about every single body composition goal out there, and most people obviously want to get to their goal as fast as possible, right? So there is a proper way to do this. And there's a reason for why certain programs are developed the way that they are to get you the amount of weight loss or muscle built in a certain amount of time.
Well, and I know that we've talked about it in several of our other episodes, but I think it deserves its own episode because it's the point that everybody wants to ignore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people will listen to us on just about every other point except for the rate at which they want to lose weight.
Right.
Because most of the time people have, these very short time-bound goals, and they look for a plan or hire a coach a little bit too late in the game for that timeline in order to see that much progress. Or somebody doesn't have a timeline and they just want the weight gone when they want it gone.
I mean, a lot of times it's just an overly inflated idea of what that progress should look like.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it has to do with shows like The Biggest Loser and just media in general, where the idea of losing 5 to 10 pounds in a week is like what you should be targeting.
Yeah. And I think that it's important to remember that, like, for most people, you didn't gain all of your weight in this very short period of time.
Right.
So you have to understand that you also cannot lose that weight in that short amount of time. So for most people, you're going to lose weight a lot slower than you gained it to begin with.
Right.
If being overweight is your problem.
Mm-hmm.
For people underweight, it's the opposite problem.
Yep.
Right? So typically they're going to lose weight faster than they gain weight. So you have to be understanding of how your body works, and also realize that anybody who's recommending a slow rate of weight loss has your best interest in mind.
Yes.
We're trying not to screw your body up.
It's not like we're trying to prolong this for some
we're not trying to get more money out of you. We're not trying to make you rely on us longer. We are literally trying to set your body up for the best possible response to the program.
Yeah. And part of that is the whole paradigm of what a diet actually is. Because most people think, all right, I've got this weight loss goal. I'm going to do X diet, and I'm going to do it for 2 months. I'm going to do it for 3 months. And then it's like, this protocol might allow you to lose a bunch of weight, but there's no adjustment back to normal life. So it really, when it comes to making these types of body composition changes, there isn't a time where you should be coming off of the diet.
No.
It should be set up in such a way that this is a lifestyle that you're living.
That it's sustainable.
There is no, well, when I come off of this, then whatever.
Yeah.
That shouldn't even
that
be
mentality
a part of it.
is a huge problem in and of itself, because it opens the doors to rebounding.
Yeah.
And, having issues with your relationship with food, and, having this restriction, and then times where you go and binge.
Mm-hmm.
So by having that mentality of this is something that I'm only going to follow for a short period of time, you're already doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah. And that's what a lot of people think is once I'm through this, I'll be in shape, and then there's no plan after that.
Yeah.
There's no transition.
So all of you 6-week challengers, 8-week challengers, 3-month challengers, I'm not saying that there's not a place for those types of programs, but more often than not, they are built in an unsustainable way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you've noticed yourself going from doing something that you were before that maybe wasn't the healthiest thing in the world to flipping that completely, and within the first couple of weeks, you're starting to realize either how difficult it is or how much you dislike it, even though you're seeing progress. It's not to say that the whole plan is bad in and of itself, but there needs to be some sort of adjustment there, because this needs to be something that can work for you long term.
Yeah.
The nutrition strategy itself the foundation of it doesn't really change. It's the additional quantities of things that you're consuming relative to what's happening with your weight and your goals that are going to change over time.
Well, it's your starting point.
Mm-hmm.
So like we've mentioned in podcasts before, most people either start way too heavy on the exercise, like they all of a sudden start doing both cardio and strength 6 days a week, or they cut their calories in half or by a third, or they do a combination of both. And so what you're doing is you're putting your body in a place where it's shocked. It goes through this period of shock, and it kind of turns on all of these stress responses, and it has this whole cascade of hormone things that happen. And your body is basically going to hit a plateau. And it's also going to put you in a position where once you hit that plateau from overdoing it with exercise and under eating, you're going to have to spend way more time getting yourself out of that hole in order to move past that plateau.
Right.
So this isn't the kind of plateaus that we were talking about in one of our previous podcasts where, you know, we hit a plateau, we make an adjustment. We add more exercise, we take more calories away. When you've already started too heavy, we don't have anywhere to go.
You've actually got to go in
So then you have to go
direction.
backwards. You actually exercise less. You eat more. And that's going to stall your weight loss.
Right. So before we get any deeper into the topic, what is a good rate of weight loss?
So, and we've mentioned this before, I firmly believe that it is true that everything you hear about being, 1 to 2 pounds per week is the ideal amount of weight loss for the average person.
Right.
So for people who have, a little bit higher body fat or have a little bit more weight to lose, you're going to see more than 2 pounds lost, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, not much more.
Right. 1 to 2 pounds, and we're talking about an average here. So like Alexa was saying, if you are on the larger side and maybe you've got a 100-pound weight loss goal or even more than that, then your first few weeks, I mean, you could definitely expect to see more than that. It's certainly possible and wouldn't be a bad thing. However, if you're in that range where maybe you're trying to lose 20 or 30 pounds and you've got it in your mind that you're going to do it in 6 weeks, that's not
and here's the
that's
thing.
not the same thing.
You could do it in 6 weeks, maybe.
Yeah, you could take that weight off. You absolutely could.
You would be miserable and you would hate yourself.
And you wouldn't look the way you wanted to look.
No, you would look very soft and
very skinny and thin.
But fluffy at the same time.
Yeah, so it's...
And then as soon as you stopped, because you would hit a wall mentally and physically, you'd be exhausted and you'd be ready to eat anything. And at that point, willpower doesn't mean anything. You're going to just grab the first thing you see and you're just going to eat everything.
Right.
And then that weight is going to come back.
Yeah, and so the problem that you run into with that is if you've made this massive calorie cut, or you've done just a ton more exercise than normal, or if it's a combination of both, and you've done that for an extended period of time, say in this case, the 6 weeks, and maybe you somehow lost 30 pounds, what's happening internally is your body's metabolism is slowing down significantly because you've got way less nutrients coming in and way more energy expenditure going out from your exercise. So your metabolism's slowing down to try to save your life. That's what this response is. And so as soon as you revert back to what you were doing before and you increase your calories back to normal, your metabolism is significantly slower than when you started. And so now not only is your metabolism slower, but that same amount of calories that might have held you at a maintenance weight before is now actually going to be putting you in a significant oversupply of calories. You're going to be building fat mass up very significantly, and you're not eating any more than you were prior to starting this crash diet.
Which is why yo-yo dieting over time makes people more overfat than they were to begin with.
Yeah.
So their weight might actually, like you might yo-yo diet and your weight might bounce back to roughly the same number. But each time you're actually probably building more fat in that same pound number. So you're altering your body composition in the worst way, where you're eating through muscle tissue and you're replacing it with fat.
Yeah. And like we talked about with metabolism before, it's a dynamic system. It's not something that's just set at this number and then set at this number, because when you go through that yo-yo up and down, the metabolism doesn't have time to get back to that peak that it was at before.
Well, because most people aren't gradually decreasing and then gradually increasing.
No, it's straight back.
So it's somebody cuts their calories in half and then they triple their calories over the weekend. And those drastic changes day to day are what is going to throw your body off.
Right.
Which is why in order to fix it, we can fix it. You can improve your metabolism and how your metabolism functions, but we have to take it in really slow, small steps.
Right.
In order to give you time to adjust.
Yeah. So those are all examples of what happens when you do it improperly, when you're trying to lose weight way too quickly. When you're in that 1 to 2 pound per week average range, what that's able to do is you're going to be maintaining your strength a lot better. Mm-hmm. You're going to be maintaining your muscle tissue a lot better. You're not going to be feeling hungry. If you're doing this properly and you're fulfilling your body's needs nutritionally and you're eating nutrient-dense foods, then you shouldn't really feel hungry. You might have some nights where, yeah, maybe you could eat something and it would be a little bit nicer, but it's not like you're dying of hunger.
Yeah.
And so that's something that you should expect when you're actually doing this properly. And strength-wise, if your goal is to get stronger, there is no reason why you can't get stronger while losing body fat at the proper rate.
Yeah.
Now, if you're trying to cut 3, 4, 5 pounds a week after week after week, then yeah, your strength is going to disappear. And that's also one of the things that I try to monitor with my clients that have a fat loss goal. Maybe they don't have any sort of direct strength goals, but strength is a great barometer for fat loss progress because if you're losing weight and you're able to maintain, if not improve your strength, then we know that the muscle tissue that you've got on your body is being maintained and that weight that we're losing on the scale is coming from body fat.
Being targeted as body fat. No, that's awesome. That's a really good point. Because a lot of people think that going through a fat loss program that they will just get weaker by default. Mm-hmm. But again, that means that you're probably not doing it the right way. Because if we're giving your body enough calories to support your training routine, which is the goal, no matter what your actual weight goal is, our goal is to give you the nutrients and the calories and the energy needed for your fitness goal and for your fitness level, so your activity level. And if we're doing that, like Kyle said, then your strength should absolutely stay the same, if not get better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've actually noticed certain times in my own training where I've been focused more on body composition and leaning out, and just by the fact of making sure that all my proper nutrients are aligned, even though I'm in a slight caloric deficit, my strength still continues to improve. Mm-hmm. And that's something where you're just barely undercutting that maintenance level, but you're still able to progress strength-wise. So just something to keep in mind, that strength doesn't have to be a complete loss every time you're trying to get leaner. So with that, I mean, diets that promise these big weight loss numbers within like a certain amount of time.
Yeah, like all the challenges, right?
Yeah, they're just not, they're not built for taking that with you for the rest of your life.
No, that's why gyms and certain groups and certain trainers will offer these types of programs. And it's because they want to draw you in with this promise of, quick, fast, large amounts of weight loss.
Yeah.
But then it's kind of like, okay, we get to the end of the 6 weeks and now what? And most people leave one of those challenges and they don't know where to go from there. Mm-hmm. And their weight comes back and, oh, look at that. They had to join the next challenge.
Right.
So it kind of feeds this cycle. And I'm not saying that everybody does this, but it's something that's pretty common because it's the most attractive to the consumer.
Right. I mean, if you see something that says you can lose 20 pounds in a month, obviously that's a lot more sexy than losing a pound a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
you know what the not sexy part is? You gaining 40 pounds after the
coming
program is over.
Yeah. So, and a lot of this goes back to giving yourself realistic goals. Mm-hmm. One of the most comical things I can think of from when I was in college would be literally the week before spring break, when the gym population increased.
All the treadmills are full.
5-fold.
Every piece of cardio equipment.
And mind you, this isn't like the month or two leading up to it. It was literally the week before spring break.
Like, that's really going to help
People were hitting the gym, and it's like, for you now, but you're not going to see anything. So having an understanding of what your timeline looks like when you're putting it in that frame of reference of 1 pound to 2 pounds per week, maybe a little bit more if you've got more to lose, but that's a big thing right there. And just understanding what that timeline looks like so you're not setting yourself up for failure and you're not trying to push too much too fast. Because at the end of the day, if what you're doing isn't something that you want to sustain long term, there's probably some things that need to be adjusted.
Yeah. Well, and then there's the other fact that every single person is different. So if you don't exactly know what your body is going to respond to the best, you kind of also have to give yourself some wiggle room to make those adjustments.
Mm-hmm.
So, in your first couple weeks or even your first couple months, it's a little bit of a process to find out what your personal body, is going to respond to.
Mm-hmm.
So I would honestly say that if you have an event that you would like to change your body in any way for, that you're looking at like a minimum of 6 months ahead of time.
Yeah.
Like you need to give yourself a minimum of 6 months. I would say maybe you should start thinking about it a year in advance if you have that time, like if you know that event's coming up. And that's not to say if you have something happening in 2 months that it's too late for you.
Right.
But if you've got a big long-term goal, a big goal, just know that it's probably longer term than you think it is.
Yeah. I mean, you can absolutely improve your body composition significantly in a 2-month frame, a 3-month frame. There's no question about that. But if it is a bigger goal or a larger weight loss goal in general, obviously that's going to take more time, and just mentally setting yourself up for that will save you a lot of headache and save you a lot of plateau issues if you're trying to go too fast.
Well, and then there's if you have any other health conditions happening under the surface, you also have to be aware that that is going to add time to that goal also.
Yeah.
Because anything going on inside, we kind of have to address before the outside of your body is going to respond.
Right.
So if you're coming to this place where you do have an event in mind, but you also know that you have, blood sugar issues or blood pressure issues or anything else going on, hormone issues, you need a bigger jump start. Like you need a bigger time window in order to kind of fix some of those things and then move into kind of your fat loss phase.
Yeah. I mean, you need everything functioning prior to worrying about the body composition side of things.
Exactly.
So now on the other end of the spectrum, the weight gain goal, this is a little bit different. So while weight loss, we're typically shooting for 1 pound to 2 pounds lost, weight gain and muscle gain wise, we're actually going to be even more conservative than that. We're going to typically shoot for about 0.5 pound, maybe up to 1 pound per week. And this is for the same reason, the opposite reason as the weight loss goal. But if you're trying to put on too much weight too fast, then you're just going to that leads to way more body fat accumulation than muscle. Your body can store fat way more quickly and efficiently than it can build muscle mass.
And so as much as you would like to think that all of the weight you're gaining is muscle,
yeah,
and as much as you would like to try and target all of that weight gain being muscle, that's not really how the body works. And it's very difficult. So just because you gained 3 pounds this week doesn't necessarily mean you gain 3 pounds of muscle if gaining is your goal.
And just because you had 300 grams of protein every day
also doesn't mean that it's making your muscles bigger.
Yeah, and that kind of going back to our talk on macros, when you're in this type of caloric surplus, as long as you've got the base amount of protein required for your body, going beyond that isn't going to do you any more. So if you think, all right, I'm consuming 4,000 calories and I'm gaining a couple pounds a week, as long as most of that's protein, it's all muscle, right? That's not the truth.
No.
So again,
and it also doesn't matter if you're just overeating calories in general. You really need to make sure your training program is on point for this muscle gain or a mass gain program, because that's another really big thing too. I think people think that they can just eat extra and not really look at their training routine to see if that's where it needs to be.
Sure. And you need to be providing the proper stimulus for your body to acquire this new muscle tissue.
Yeah.
Because muscle is a very metabolically active tissue. And so you have to prove to your body, so to speak, that it needs it. And so if your training isn't reflecting that type of workload, then just because you're bringing in extra calories, if you're not pushing yourself hard enough with the strength training side of the time that you're spending in the gym, then that could very easily just be excess body fat that you're putting on.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I would say that that's even a bigger part of the equation than, your training with weight loss. Obviously we know that that's important no matter what, but your body, is much more willing to give things up typically than it is to like store muscle tissue.
Yeah.
Like give up.
Build muscle tissue. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
So
build muscle tissue.
Right. So yeah, as long as you kind of keep those in mind when you've got these types of goals, you should be on a pretty decent track. So just reiterating, weight loss 1 to 2 pounds per week on average, muscle building a half pound to a pound per week. And one thing we didn't really touch on is if these are extended goals, don't be afraid to have a bit of a maintenance phase in the middle of them. So if you've got a 100-pound weight loss goal and you've been on a 4 or 5 month cut, so to speak, it might be a good idea to take a month or so to just maintain, maybe bump your calories up a little bit, let your body establish a new set point, and then go back to attacking that goal. Same thing with mass building. So if you've been packing on weight month after month after month, eventually that's going to get to a point of diminishing returns, and you're going to see a lot better progress long term if you have those small periods kind of interspersed between mass gain phases or fat loss phases.
It benefits your metabolism. Your metabolism really does do well after some time off, not to mention like the mental break that it gives you. So there are, lots of studies out there that show if you're on a fat loss program and you take, a couple weeks off or a month off, there are marked improvements in your metabolism.
Definitely.
That obviously when you return to that fat loss phase, even starting at a higher deficit than you were ending with before, you can continue to see fat loss.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, thank you guys for checking us out today. If there's anything else that you'd like us to cover in the future, feel free to reach out to myself at HypertroFit.com. You can find Alexa at therootedrd.com. And we will see you guys again next week.
See you guys next week.